Well, hey there, native plant enthusiasts. This is Santino, Education Coordinator for Bowman's Wildflower Preserve, coming at you with the next Nature Note. Today's native plant highlight is, of course, one of my favorites, and it seems almost out of place here in our eastern forests. But believe it or not, this is native. It's a member of a family of plants that has about 1,800 different members in it. In addition, the particular genus that it belongs to is home to about 150 different species. And we are, I'll say, lucky enough to have one here in Pennsylvania. Now, this plant is known to spread and form colonies. Its blossoms happen now in the early summer months with bright yellow flowers, and depending on location, those flowers can also form with a orange or red center. And yeah, this plant is edible despite what you might think. So what is today's mysterious native plant? It's Opuntia humifusa, or the eastern prickly pear. Now, I know what you're thinking. Cactus, really? Yes. The eastern US is home to a fabulous cactus species. Now, just like other cactus species, the pads of the cactus act both as the stem and the leaf, and they are photosynthetic. What's great about the eastern prickly pear is it's an evergreen and will be around all winter long. In fact, the cells within the pads of the prickly pear contain an antifreeze, which means that the plant can survive even temperatures that dip below zero. As you can imagine, Opuntia is often found in sandy soils, being, well, it's a cactus. It also enjoys bright, sunny locations. You're going to look for a spot that gets sun probably about half the day or more. As I mentioned, that the cactus flower itself is typically yellow, and I'll say about 2 to 3 inches across. If you're east of the Appalachian Mountains, they often have an orange or red center. Now, the plant, the term prickly pear, this plant is neither a pear, it is prickly, but it got the term pear from the mature fruits, which are typically about a maroon or a purpley color and form in the pear shape. Now, they are a great supplier of nectar and pollen for a variety of our native bee species. And depending on location, the pads themselves, as well as the fruit, are munched upon by many of our favorite native vertebrates. Things like foxes and squirrels, things like skunks, and deer, box turtle, and other birds will also munch on the pads. In fact, it is most common that the fruits and seeds of the plants are dispersed by critters eating them, as you would imagine with most fruits. Now, what's cool about the eastern prickly pear and the Opuntia, that genus or genera itself, is that it can spread via just the pads. It can root from just the pads themselves. So, in fact, the genus Opuntia, that term is derived from the ancient city of Opus, or the city of Opus in ancient Greece. And this city reportedly had a crop that could grow just by placing and jamming the leaves into the ground. Though it is likely not the eastern prickly pear that they were describing at that for that plant, but in any event, it's an amazing ability nonetheless. I also find it amazingly impressive that all parts of the plant are edible, especially from wildlife. Again, the plant itself is covered with spines and bristles as a form of protection, which work well and will cause some serious irritation and damage if ingested. Now, let's take a closer look at these spines. So the fleshy pads themselves are covered in these large, scary-looking spines, and depending on the variety of the species, you can have spines that can get up to almost 4 inches in length. And these are sticking out of what are known as areoles or air holes. They're for gas exchange. And while these spines are large and scary and pokey, yes, ouch, these are not the most, I'll say, terrifying part of this plant. Instead, we'll take an even closer look and you'll see some smaller, sharp bristles. These are known as glaucids. and they are hidden within these deep woolly hairs in each of the areoles. And it's these bristles that are far more irritating and are much like getting fiberglass on your skin. Um, I don't know if folks today know what fiberglass in the skin feels like, as we have other insulative techniques, but that's what I'd liken it to there. So in any event, um, if you can make it past these most noted defenses, as I said, the pads and fruit are consumable by humans. The fruits themselves can be eaten raw after peeling, of course, or you can juice them up, or I would say you can blend them up and turn them into a pulp that can be made into jellies, juices, and candies or other sweets. Um, the pads themselves have been a traditional food source or staple in Mexico and Central America and are often prepared as traditional vegetables. Of course, that is after removal of spines and bristles and given a very thorough washing, because again, you don't want to ingest any bit of the pokies, for sure. But in any event, this plant is one of my favorite native plants, more because it has a personal connection for me. So again, this is a member of there's many cactuses that belong to this genus, and one of them happens to inhabit Sicily, or the island south of Italy, which is where my dad comes from. So I remember growing up as a child and listening to my dad talk about his experiences with the prickly pear. So learning that the eastern US is home to a prickly pear species really puts it in a special place here in my heart. So I hope you have learned something and enjoyed this plant or learned to love this plant as much as I do. If you'd like to add Opuntia to your own garden, know that our native plant nursery sells this plant. So you can pop by and grab a pad for yourself. Supplies, of course, are always variable, and check to see what we have in stock. But I have been informed that we will be selling Opuntia for your own garden. It is a fun native. I put it around my mailbox and have really enjoyed seeing it blossom, and the bees have been loving it this early summer as well. So yeah, that just about wraps it up for me, my friends. And as always, please give the video a like if you liked it. Comment down below what is a native you think I should cover next. Maybe it'll appear in the next Nature Note episode. Do share the video with a friend if there's someone who you might think will enjoy it. And as always, I encourage each and every one of you to keep on experiencing what's natural and learn what's native. Have a great one. This is cool. This is an aside, but we're checking out some ants who are on the Opuntia, or eastern prickly pear cactus, and they are farming aphids here. So they're having the aphids drink the sugar solution, the nectar produced that is harbored inside the pads, and then they are taking that's known as honeydew, and the ants are then taking that for their own enjoyment.